continue here. This Women's Month, we look at strides made in empowering women through financial literacy, overcoming debt challenges, financial independence, and also planning are some of the key issues that are faced by women in South Africa. For more on this, we are joined by Managing Director of IgnytWealth, that's Mr. Seatla Ratshosa. Seatla, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. I mean, some of our viewers might wonder, two men having a conversation advising women about how to save. But I think it's still an important discussion to have. Let's speak about some of the practical tips that women should consider, especially when it comes to improving their financial literacy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. And I just want to take it back a bit, where women are really coming from. We know that women have been pillars of communities for a very long time. And most women continue to lead families, way more than men. But the problem that has been lagging behind has been, the knowledge of how to use money or how to multiply money, how to take risk, how to scale their small businesses, right? With most men, we know that they have been trying that because generally by nature, men are more risk takers than women are. But I think what we have left behind is the education. We have tried a lot of programs. I think there are too many programs right now that actually empower women. When you look at how banks are financing, when you look at some quotas that have been developed to say there has to be 50% of women in this, 50% of men in this. So programs have been created, but the education has been lagging behind.
Yeah. So with all this in mind, are there practical tips that you have for women who are struggling with debt especially, but also looking to better manage their finances?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we like to put out there is the principles of wealth creation. So basically looking at the first principle being the earning principle, which I think most women know how to do. They know how to set up their own businesses, they know how to sell, they know how to make a bit of profit. But then moving on to the other principles of wealth creation, which includes how to save, where to save. We are looking at investments and how to use debt to invest, not using debt to buy furniture and other things that you love, right? So those are practical tips that women need to learn. Debt more especially, because for most communities which are coming from behind, debt is one key principle that can really help people to move forward. It's a good equalizer. I call it a good equalizer. So if they were to learn how to leverage debt to push their small businesses or their personal lives, right, I think that is something that they would really benefit from. Also, after learning this investment tool, they can also learn how to manage their risk. There's a lot of risk surrounding women because they have a lot of dependence. It could be children, it could be their parents, it could be their siblings. You know that women have been pillars of communities. So because of that, it poses a lot of risk on them than in most men, which means that they have to learn how to manage the risk through insurance, ensuring that they have funeral covers, they have life covers. Should they pass on, what will be left for the children, right? And then later on, we want them to now learn the main key principle after designing all of the systems, estate planning. Most women die and then the family gets into trouble because they take care of so many people. They don't do all of these little things, ensuring that their estate is planned properly for the remaining dependents.
I guess it then also begs the question as to how can women achieve or even maintain this financial independence, if you will, or even make smarter financial decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think education is it's what is required, and we should not give up on education. We talk about it a lot, and people always say, we've been speaking about this, we've been speaking about this, but we'll continue to speak about it until it starts to make sense. When you talk about saving is a principle that teaches discipline. How many times do we have to talk about saving until people start saving, right? Right now, I mean, so many people, not just women, I mean, people are struggling to save. So we keep on talking about it so that people can understand that it's a part of life, it's a discipline that you need to learn for you to move forward. And then also when it comes to investments. Now, I always say, if you want to catch women, catch them where they like to be. Catch them in areas that they like to promote. You look at Stockfells, we have more population of women than you have men. that is where you catch them, right? You go to schools, women attend PTA meetings way more than men do. That's where you catch them, right? When you look at other community projects that are created, you'll find more women there. That is where you catch them. So we need to be bringing the education to the women and also looking at the things that actually impact their lives and their communities.
But then it also begs the question as to why is financial planning or even budgeting so important? And how can women use these tools to ensure long-term success when it comes to their finances?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't really do much if you don't understand those principles. You know, there are so many stories of people who know how to make money. We have heard so many stories of people who win big tenders. You know, they make millions, they buy cars, they buy houses, or they go on holidays. If they don't learn the key principles, just the simple principle of budgeting, saying, this is where I want to take my business, this is what I'm projecting, and this is how much money needs to be put in that, right? They're not going anywhere. You only go somewhere once you start learning the simple principles of staking money. You know, it's like building a house. You need to stake. You can't do a foundation and then all of a sudden you are roofing the house, right? You need to keep on staking. So those principles will continue to apply. The richest people in the world, they will tell you you can't win unless you have the discipline to put money aside. Learn how to make your budget, stick to your budget, put money aside, because then that money will help you to invest it. When you are investing the money, then it can multiply. When it's multiplying, that's when you are creating wealth. But just learning the simple principle of making money, I mean, that one is so simple. You can teach it even to a child. A child can learn how to sell sweets at school, and they make a profit, and they have learned how to make money. But wealth creation is all about what you can accumulate, what you can put on the side, and sticking to a certain budget, sticking to your projections and your plans.
Recent surveys also show how many South Africans aren't saving enough. How does financial literacy then help to address this issue? And what can be done to also encourage better saving habits from South Africans? Yeah,
I think, you know, with the development of technology, I think there are so many avenues now that can be used to help people to save. We know that nowadays banks are starting small wallets that can, you know, enable you to save as you spend, to save as you swipe. All of those initiatives, I think they have come a long way in assisting people. But you see, saving as a principle, it can't be forced on you. You need to understand that principle to say, for every 100 rand that I'm going to receive, 10% of it is not mine. For every 100 rand that I have for the day, I'm going to come back from that day with 10 rands, right? If you have that as a discipline, eventually you'll go a long way. But people always say a lot of stories about people who save. You know, they call them stingy and all those terms, frugal, you know. But truth is, what they're basically trying to say is that it's not easy to get that way with you. That's all that they're saying. So that discipline, you know, of putting money aside, it's very key. And financial literacy, it's really, you know, teaching people that money needs to work for you. Money is not something that just comes and then you spend it on consumables. It needs to eventually work for you. And when it's working for you, that's when you know that you are financially literate.
How does improving financial literacy contribute to even economic development, particularly for women? Because some will argue that when you really think about it, there isn't money to save.
No, you know, I always, you know, disagree with that statement. It doesn't really matter how much money you earn. You could be making 2,000, and we know a lot of stories about people who were maybe working as maids who ended up accumulating more wealth than the people that had hired them, right? Because it's all about how much money can you keep from what you are earning. It's all about that. And we do know that the economy, you know, things are getting tight. You know, inflation is always going up, which is why we always say, let us learn other avenues of making money. Let's not have one stream of income, because that then becomes very, very dangerous, right? But money in itself has to be respected first. You need to respect how much you are earning. If you are getting 3,000 rands, that is your 3,000 rands. If you can put aside 500 rands, in a year's time, you have 6,000 rands. 6,000 rands, you can start lending it to somebody else. You are getting 20% per month, right? That is your money growing. In 2 years, in 5 years, 10 years' time, because wealth creation is a long-term game. In 10 years' time, you are sitting pretty. But it doesn't matter, because we have sat with a lot of people who are earning 300,000 rands, 400,000 rands. They lose their jobs. In 2 months, already their kids are being expelled from school. So it's not really an issue of how much money you earn. It's an issue of that discipline to say, I can't be squandering all of what I am receiving. Part of it has to go towards ensuring my future.
As we wrap up our conversation, how can organizations and even government support financial education initiatives, especially for women as well, as we commemorate Women's Month?
Yeah, I think the intention has to be quite deliberate. We need to create programs of financial literacy. It's a very expensive exercise because it's a long-term game. You can't get the results now. But this is what I can always, tell anyone who's supposed to be responsible for this education, that the person that we are ignoring, not teaching, is the very same person who will be holding an office of power tomorrow. And if they're not disciplined enough to manage their money properly, imagine what is going to be happening in that office. Those people who can manage money properly are very vulnerable to corruption. You can't stop it, right? Because if they don't do well at home and their kids are getting expelled from school, they're under pressure. So if I come and say, take this 20,000 rands, do this favor for me, I'm going to take it because I'm under pressure. Deliberately, I'm not a criminal, but circumstances have forced me to take that 20,000. But if we create a community of financially literate people, then we can ensure that we can curb corruption. You can't curb corruption by taking people to jail. You curb corruption by educating people. When people understand better and they manage their resources better, they'll be able to manage other people's resources better, which is the situation that we are faced with mostly in Africa.
Seatla, let me thank you for your time. That's Seatla Ratshosa sharing his valuable insights.